On Monday, sorry I wasn't here, I had another meeting. I think what it is, I think the sheriff made a presentation, I think the veteran, what else?
It was mostly the sheriff stuff that we needed to review. Matt put some numbers together on it. I guess you can kind of explain it.
Go ahead, Matt, from the sheriff.
There was a long list of possible adjustments to the budget. Where would you like to start?
We'll start at the top and work our way down.
Okay, well, that would be the top.
With the simpler stuff, like
Absolutely.
court, as we were going through stuff, I
So we can start off
add that, add
with
this, add that.
travel and training for Constable 3. I believe that was the first one.
Yeah.
What was that we talked about?
Yes.
The travel and training adjustment for Constable 3.
You provided us with a fund balance,
Correct. The fund balance. You asked for the
the Leo's fund.
Leo's fund. That has
Which
anticipated
currently-
that has anticipated revenue if it's applied for in the following year.
Currently, it has $3,300.
Correct. Currently, it does. Yes.
And we're asking for an increase of,
The increase, 697 to take them to the, I believe, 1,400 or whatever the budget was before.
and that money,
1311.
that Leo's
Okay.
fund is for,
The
what
Leo's
can it
fund
be used for?
is only for travel and training.
Does that have any limitations on this one?
Travel and training, I believe, or anything related to that. Directly related.
I mean, I have a difficult time raising travel and training while we're sitting there with a fund that has $3,300 in it that is designed for travel and training.
I can see that. I can see that point. However, also, he is doing. Not all the constables are presently going after those funds. What if you just made it across the board? All the constables receive the same amount of travel and training, whatever amount you set that at, and then if the Leo's funds is gone after and got, then that would increase their travel and training. So that way, someone who's actually putting the effort to get it does not have a lower travel and training than anybody who.
No, I mean, I think all of these constables need to go up to that fund. That's what it's for. It's state money to help them with their travel and training.
Okay.
I'm not sure why we're not doing it. I don't know how complicated it is to do it, but trying to find the budget.
Commissioner, when I talked to Jay, I think he didn't know about it, so he was going to go look into it. I think that's one, and they said he was going to look at it and talk to Chief
Constable Berg already does it.
Yeah, but he was going to inquire with Bert to see how you apply for it. So that's what he told me he was going to do.
Yeah.
Why would I want to increase Constable Precinct 1's travel and training when he hasn't used anything? I mean, you said you made a comment right now that they all need to be the same, but why would I want to either increase Precinct 1 to where they're all in line when he doesn't use it?
I understand that. That's a good point also, but it would just be a standardization across the board.
I understand that, but again, now you're setting aside money that he doesn't use
Okay.
at all. I mean,
Okay.
we have $850 budgeted for him, zero year to date that he's used.
I mean, I understand the argument. You've got Precinct 4 with $1,800 for travel and training, and then you've got Precinct 3 with $653, and then we have Precinct 2 with $1,200, and we have Precinct 1 with $850, so they're all over the place. So how about we ask them to get their Leo's money and then set everything at $1,200 and be done with it?
Well,
So, if they're not doing training, or do they still qualify as a JP? I thought that was allowed.
That I cannot answer. I don't know what their required trainings are.
Police mandatory.
if you go to the 1,200 with three of them,
We don't
To
know.
move one to 1,200,
He's
he ain't
looking.
using it at all.
One is in Eagles.
But I believe that training is every 4 years, so that could be why it,
You still have to have hours every year.
So then do everybody at 850 and they get their Leo's money. They want
Every
it.
elected official is supposed to have hours, right?
Yes.
So,
I think it's a good idea with Commissioner Middleton talking about just bringing them up to 1,200, and I guess Commissioner Owens excluding precinct 1.
Well, again, he's not using it. The other
Yes,
ones,
sir.
look, the other ones are going, I mean, Jerry had
That's correct.
1875 and he used 1566. Constable Berg, he's within dollars of using everything he's been given.
Just set them all at 1,200 except one, and then their additional money is the Leo's money. If they want to go after it, if they don't, they don't.
Is that motion?
That's
Yeah,
a
what-
motion. Go for it.
So you got something else to it?
Well, let's take care of one thing at a time.
Okay, all right.
Uh,
I mean, I don't know.
I'll make a motion to set all of the constables at 1,200, and any additional money they need, they have to go after the Leo's funds,
Except for precinct 1.
except for precinct 1, leave him at 850.
I want to make a motion as
Wait a minute.
to,
Wait, finish this one.
Motion, and then
One at a
I need
time.
I'll do a
a
second.
second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's vote on this motion
Okay,
first.
good.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Nobody? 5-0. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, Judge, I'd like to make a motion also concerning the constables to raise their car allowance $1,000 each, and I guess exclude precinct 1. I mean, I don't know if y'all want to do it that way, but,
You have to do what you gotta do, all of them.
okay.
I'll second that.
There's a motion, second. Any discussion on that? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nobody? 5-0.
now it's constables up 1,000
Each.
auto.
I'll-
Okay. So we do that one, right?
And now we got the veterans.
Yeah, no, this is the veterans.
Veterans, yeah. I know there was some discussion that, about his travel and training. Currently, he has 1,100 still encumbered, which means those are trips that are still need to be taken. And there is a $400 trip in there, but it's already been moved to activity, just only because we paid the invoice for pre-training. So that was at about 1,600 before yesterday. And he still retained the balance of about 650 in his travel and training. I know he was asking for that to be increased. And in your packet also is the breakdown of what is still encumbered on the travel and training.
So, and that was a question that we all kept asking, is it enough money? With what he has, is there enough money to get his training, whatever's required for training? I mean, and we're looking at it, and it seems like there is, right?
I would think so, that there is. And if there isn't, and come to the end of the year, just come back to the court and say, I have required training, I need to take, right? That's kind of how it would go down.
Seems like it.
Okay.
Now, let me ask a question on this one. I know they want to hire some drivers to drive some veterans over there. Do we have to make a motion to hire, pay the driver minimum wage driving up there? Or do we make it separately from
So we need to add money in the budget to cover it, whatever rate we're gonna cover it
Right.
at. But are we gonna put that in the judge's budget, or are we gonna put that in the veterans office budget?
I think it should be the judge's office, because we actually go over the timesheets with them when they turn them in. And I know there's money on the hourly wage employees on the judges. We have this year we have about $10,000 left over. And Juanita and I sat down and we're paying them the minimum wage at $7.75 an hour. I think we have enough money for this year, because we're gonna start this, what, Commissioner?
We've already started.
Where we started, but we want to pay those drivers for doing it. We haven't agreed on anything, but
Okay.
we haven't started paying them, let me put it this way. We haven't notified them yet.
What do we wanna pay them next year? How often are they driving? 2 days a week?
Twice a week, if you do, I figured 8, I didn't figure 775. If you wanna go 775, we can. I figured at 8, and the trips, sometimes they're gone 14 hours each day. If you do that, it's 11,600.
Right. And at
They go twice a
775,
week.
at 775, I think you can go closer to 10,000 if you have left.
But for next year? You don't know. This year we should be fine, but next year we need to set aside, how much?
Well, it's $11,300. That
In the
would take care
judge's
of the
budget.
775 in the
Yeah,
judge's
you would
budget.
add about 1,200 for those people.
Okay, is that a motion?
That make it a motion. To add $11,300 to the judge's budget for part-time drivers for the
Or
veterans.
kick up what he has there by up to 11? He already has money in there.
Yeah, just 1,100 more.
I don't know how much is left over.
Should be,
To go out the remainder of this year, you're fine.
Yeah, I'm fine.
no, I'm talking about for next
For
year's
next
budget,
year.
to get it to.
What do we need to add to this budget? It's $11,300 what we're gonna need. If there's a balance in there, subtract that balance from the 11,300 and not go up the whole 11,300.
That is,
That's a good question.
that could happen. Yeah, it's there. It's there. I got it. What?
Well, I withdraw my motion. Let's make a motion that if you'll figure out what we're going to need to pay these drivers to go to Veterans Office, or what we'll need to add to this, that line item that he already has.
It would be minimal.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's gonna be a cost of about 11,300 to get that done.
And what's their hourly wages?
That would be the
$8.
8?
8.
8? Okay. 11,600.
It's hard to find
And
guys
it's,
at 775.
One or two positions?
Two positions.
Two positions part-time?
But they're not gonna go, they can alternate or rotate or whatever you wanna call it, so, you wouldn't be paying them the full.
Because the judge, yeah, I'll second it, because the judge has in salaries, he has part-time,
Yeah, it's at 30,000 and we only use 20,000, so I will need
Yeah.
about 1,100 more.
So what was the motion?
to add whatever the shortfall is to make up,
The difference between the 11,650 and what we have now.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
No, it's Jean, she's
right.
shaking her head.
I'm like putting her.
All right, there's a motion and a second.
That's being helpful.
All right, anything else? Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nobody, 5-0.
what about all these other items that?
Yes, okay,
Veterans
so
Office.
the encumbrance here for the office supplies, let's go to that one.
You asking for increase in office?
Well, he was asking for shredder, furniture,
Yeah, it's
Microsoft
capital
tablets.
outlay.
Right, capital outlay.
Yes, first.
Now,
Assign.
furniture, yeah, furniture.
I thought we bought furniture.
We have taken
A
monetary,
couple years back, yeah.
pardon?
Didn't we buy furniture? when we
He's been buying bits and pieces.
Yeah,
All
currently,
along.
currently was buying bits and pieces through here, we picked up some chairs. And, like that.
The shredder, I think
Shredder
shredder
we
needs
need
the
it.
most, right?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion we approve $1,000 for shredder.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nobody, 5-0. Okay. But out of the fire department.
I'll make a motion to add that new position, that's at 29,738 plus benefits to the
Second.
fire department.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. All those opposed? Nobody, 5-0. Okay, next, county attorney.
I'll make a motion to add that part-time position at 15,880, and then it's with fringe. That was what you needed, right?
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nobody, 5-0. Sheriff's Department, software maintenance, $10,000.
We're just moving from one line item to the other.
Correct, I don't even know if we need a motion for that, I mean, I can do that when I set up the budget.
Right.
There we go.
Would it be better if we did a motion that way?
Let's do it.
Motion to approve moving 10,000 from software to operating.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
That's the way we were doing it, right? Or was it from operating to software? The software to operating.
Software to operating.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Go to district attorney now.
The consultant, we were reducing and moving that to travel and training, right? Reducing consulting by 970 and moving that to travel and training. So I'll make a motion to reduce the consultants by 970 and move it to and increase the travel and training by 970.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0.
And I'll make a motion to do half of the part-time that they have.
It's not, well, it's a full-time, but we're adding half.
We're paying half of it.
Correct.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Second, any discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Committed funds,
Correct, our committed funds. So far, the estimate on the judicial software, the Odyssey's coming in about 3/4. Now, that can be spread over 2 fiscal years. However, if we just go ahead and commit the funds, we can draw that as it comes necessary. But the anticipated is we're looking at paying that over 2 fiscals.
Are we
It's going
going,
to take around a 14-month implementation.
are we going to try to do this out of the budget or out of a tax note?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's $750,000. If we were going to go up for a tax note, we could put it in the tax note. If we're not going to go up for a tax note, we currently have the funds that we can do it.
And we can, if we do this, then they're committed and.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm just
And then
asking-
later on, you can bring it back and
Because we
figure out
got-
which way we're running.
Well, can we spend the money and then later do a tax note to reimburse ourselves without doing a intent to reimburse resolution? We have to do an intent to reimburse resolution.
Okay.
Then you can spend the funds and then you can reimburse yourself if you choose to through the tax note.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. We can do
But
that.
if we were to do this now, it's still
We
gonna come
can,
back to us.
yeah,
anyway.
but before we spend anything, we have to do that intent to reimburse resolution.
Yeah.
If not, we're not gonna be able to if we decide to do a tax note. I'm gonna say
Is
we
that
are.
already a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to put the Odyssey software in there at $750, and then if we decide to move forward with the project, to bring back a intent to reimburse resolution for a tax note.
Why are you
Huh?
laughing? He's laughing.
Yeah, we're moving like it's like exciting.
Yeah, we ain't got to the brick wall yet.
I second.
okay, so motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All
We
those
do like
opposed,
I make a motion, I second.
I do both.
Is it legal?
All right, the mayor makes motions. We're good.
And then also part of that committed funds was to set aside money for Frontier.
And you have that money in the budget?
We do, yes.
You do.
We do. Now, if we were going out for a tax note, that could also be the same deal with the Odyssey, if you choose to.
Is
go
that $1 million gonna get that road done?
Well,
Is that on top of the 300 we already have, or
That's
is
on-
that including?
that's
it?
on top
No,
of,
yeah, it should
it's
be
on top of everything.
So that's 1.3 million that we have set aside for that project. And we're gonna be able to complete it.
I'm hoping we will.
hoping is not the same as.
Yeah, it should
Well, I
be a
mean, we
definite
should, we should, we should.
yes.
Have we,
Constable Berg just showed me a statute that shows that the Leos funds can't be supplanted. So when you're trying to say, he's getting Leos funds, therefore,
Can you make us a copy of that?
no, because it's on his phone.
the thing about it though is though that we actually raised what he was getting,
I'm
so
just-
how can we be supplanting?
No, I'm just telling you.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, there's no way to be supplanting if we'd have lowered it and then made him do it, but we actually raised him from 5-something to 12-something.
but all constables are receiving the same amount, whether you have those funds or not, with the exception of one.
No, that's what I'm saying, we raised it, we raised.
Can you give me a
his
copy of
so
that?
it can't be supplanted.
I would put this more for without it in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, because what we did today cannot be considered supplanting. You raised it, you didn't lower it.
Are you sir or are you supplanting? What do you do?
We're gonna serve the first time, and then we're gonna, the other one the second time.
The English as she is spoken.
Okay,
So we still need to make a decision. You have $1 million to be able to put into that?
We do.
And you're gonna take it from, is it already in here?
It's in
Yeah,
there,
it's already in our sign. We're just going to,
and we're still gonna have enough days,
Motion to approve.
second.
That's all you're getting to us. That's it. If you don't get it done, I don't know what to tell you.
Thank you, guys.
No, he seconded.
He seconded.
Oh, he seconded.
Yeah,
have all avenues been exhausted on that? Grant?
I don't know. You're very limited as to what grants you can add to make it, but I know Carl was looking at some grant to help with it, but I don't know where we're at.
GoFundMe page.
Nobody's
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody charge you.
Okay, so we effectively close to 1.8.
Okay, now we need to get to the,
Now, a two-part, we can discuss the salaries as a whole, and then come back and discuss the sheriffs individually, or we can, that's probably the best route to take, because there are a couple different setups on the sheriff. So the two proposals that we have, that seem to have some traction, are the 5% across the board.
what, mine got thrown out the door?
Nobody's saying there's not an appetite.
There was no traction on that?
There's not a lot of traction. There's gonna be a lot of paperwork on the back end on that, as far as grievances and. It did save a lot of money, though. It did.
I'll be willing to look at these two if we'll consider reducing taxes by 2 cents. And there's money to do it. We did a 2-cent tax increase 2 years ago, or last year. And there's funds available to reduce them from the current rate 2 cents.
Okay. Now, 2 cents is roughly gonna be, 1 cent is roughly,
You have what's your ending fund balance after this budget?
290. Currently, okay.
290.
290, 280, I mean, our taxable value is what, 2 billion, what?
Yeah, but you're doing it 100%, or how are you getting that?
You know, it's the same thing, 94, 97, then you add back your delinquency, that's
Oh,
what
you don't
come
have,
in.
you don't have delinquencies on that, on your penny. Okay. Anyway, correct.
In 2 years.
You have an ending
For
fund
1 year,
balance.
for 1 year, because 500,000 is going to have to be moved over to INS, because the process will be completed at the end of this year. So, you will need to fully fund INS for all next year. So that would reduce, that's going to reduce the income in the INS by 500,000. We reduce that by 500,000, then we're
You're talking
back
about
down
reducing the general fund to increase the interest.
to increase the interest sinking, and then that'll take you down to approximately a balanced budget.
If you do a 2-cent tax reduction.
For 1 year?
I didn't say 1 year. Well, the court can vote whatever they want next year. I mean,
But
you can raise or lower taxes every year.
Your ending fund balance is high right there because we didn't take out the 1 point something.
The 1.8, correct. We haven't taken that out yet.
We haven't taken out the 1.8 or some of this other stuff that we just went through.
Correct. We haven't added that in the salaries. That's, depending on which
The
salary.
1 point, I thought you said the 1.8 was already,
The 1.8, there's money in there, but it's in that 5.5 million.
Yeah, 1.7 is in that five.
I just asked if the Odyssey and the Frontera were in the budget.
Well-
They said they were.
They're
Okay, they are part of this,
I heard that too.
They're part of
the 5.5.
5.5.
5.5.
So we've reduced the 5.5.
So you're reducing your fund balance
Correct.
to cover it.
Right, along with everything else we just did. That was the major part of it.
And then that reducing that fund balance by that amount gives you how many days?
I haven't calculated that, but we are still within an amount that is acceptable.
Acceptable by the court, by who?
Matt's a lawyer.
Now, we haven't talked about raises because that is also going to affect it too, depending on which one we go with. But I believe someone has a calculator handy and we're figuring that up right now.
23% of our budget, more or less, is what it's left in the fund now.
Yes.
At a $16 million budget.
Go with the 2-cent reduction. raise 2 cents, say we need it for Laughlin, the Laughlin project came in on time and on budget, we need to cut it by 2 cents.
Okay.
And I'll make them, well, we're gonna have at the next meeting, we can't set the tax rate until a regular meeting. At the next meeting, we're gonna discuss setting the tax rate. That has to be done at a regular meeting.
Absolutely. We need to do the proposal on the tax rate, and then we're going to have 2 hearings on the tax rate.
Yes. But I still want that reduction by 2 cents to give the money back.
You wanna work on the salaries?
Okay.
I mean, because that's gonna get us closer to our,
Yes.
our other number.
So you got 2 proposals?
Yeah.
One at 5%, one at 1
Yeah,
plus.
that's the sheriff's portion. Let's go over,
This is just the sheriff's cost? Or is this the total cost, the one you gave us?
yeah, that would just be the sheriff's cost on the addition of the 1%.
And then if you do, that's the 1% plus what he wants to do?
Correct.
It's 80,000?
Mhm.
So that would be doing the 1% and the difference to add to get to where he wants to get to.
Yeah, now when we say 1%, we're implying 1% plus 1750. Okay.
Yeah, 1% plus 1750 plus the additional that he wants to get the salaries where they are, is a total cost of $80,000.
Correct. Correct.
And if you do it at the 5% plus the difference of what he wants is 93,000.
Correct.
And then with benefits, it's 111, and on the other one with benefits is 96,000.
Correct.
That does not include the other raises that we're discussing, the other employees.
No, what we discussed before, the 5% raise, what was it, 402,000? That's what the 5%.
So then it would be the 402, and then you would add the additional
93,
111.
with fringe. Right, you're calculating with fringe. This 402 is calculated without fringe, because we're just comparing salaries. But
Okay, so you just add the 93 on top of the
but
402.
you're right, that there would be an additional, .2 on there. So each dollar we go up is actually worth $1.10. So you're correct on that.
So then the 400 and something actually with benefits equates to how much?
You'd add approximately 80,000 on that.
80,000. So you'd be at 500 plus this 111, is $611,000.
You need to get which raise.
Yeah, you're
No.
gonna understand.
And then we go back to the sheriff.
That's, yeah,
But we had talked about doing a CPI increase on the, bumping base pay
Base pay?
by
Yeah.
the CPI, which is 2.5 or
2.9.
2.9.
yeah, we did that, and that there was no effect on anybody's salaries, simply because of the proposals of 5% and then 1% plus 17.
So it has no
which
effect.
is- It has no effect.
But did it have an effect if we capped one of them, the 2%, the 2.5 CPI wouldn't, the 2.5, the 2.9% of the CPI increase on the top end, if you capped these, would be, they would be actually not getting the 2.5, is what you were telling me. If you do a 5% with a cap,
Mhm.
like the judge has.
Mhm. Yeah, it would have to be reduced. Well, first, you'd have to have somebody up in that level that was close to their base.
Yeah, but there's nobody.
We don't.
Okay.
And then 2, they'd have to be so far up there that they, that 5%, that 3750 actually equated to less than 2.9%.
Because a lot of the
Those
positions
don't exist.
that would be affected, they're elected, and they don't have base pays.
Okay. Well, I guess it's a decision if we're going with a 5 or not. 1750 plus 1%. The 1750 plus 1 is less than the 5%?
No, the 5% is less.
5% is less.
By about $75,000.
Correct.
Can we discuss the 5%? Is that more or less what the judge's percentage, the 5%?
That's what the judge did.
$75,000?
And they capped it at 75, right?
75?
Yeah.
Correct.
I think,
Let me,
Yes, sir.
before you
Go
make
ahead.
a motion, what happened 2 years ago, we went exact on this, but we didn't go 1750, we went 1760 plus 1% 2 years ago. And the ones that got the benefit was basically people at the lower end. Yeah. This time, I went with a 5%, because at one point, none of us is fair for any employees. But at one point, you have to decide what are you gonna do for the people that have been here for 20, 30 years? By doing this, you're always punishing only the top people. By doing the 5%, you're now rewarding them what they gave up 2 years ago. I know it's hard to explain it because you want to be fair for everybody, but none of these plans are fair for across the board. The only way it would be fair if we have a study of a pay scale study, and then we would see how much we would have to increase, and so everybody get a fair share of the increase. It's hard to do because we haven't done it. You know, I said that when I came in because the base are very low. But my intentions were, okay, 2 years ago we did this, now this year we're gonna do that. Maybe next year we could go back to the 760 plus 1%. I know, there's no fair way to do it, I'll be honest with you. That's why I'd rather just give 5% across the board, tops at 75. Anybody above 75 gets still what the 75,000 gets. And I know it's not fair for the higher ends, but there's no way to do a fair way increase.
I agree with you guys, there isn't. I mean, even the large entities, federal government, nobody's figured it out.
Nobody's.
And that's
Well,
just the way it is.
if you're making less than $43,750, you're gonna be happy with the $1,750.
Correct,
If you're making above $43,750, you're gonna be happy with the 5%.
correct.
And we have more people below $43,750 than above that,
Correct.
and almost 2 to 1.
Okay. So we base our salaries on how happy we make people?
Well, my
I mean, I
deal
don't
is
know.
that what we've done at the beginning, when you look at our salaries, you go back 20 years and look at the salaries, what they were making. Those positions, if you were here at the same time with the percentages that we've given, they pulled further and further apart.
Okay.
And I think this court, over the last 7.5 years, we've raised the base salary. And again, either way, I mean, it's just a matter of taking a vote. It's just that to me, we'd be taking care of more people down at the bottom of the 43,750 than.
My issue is these guys making 21.5. You can't make a living at 21.5. The bottom end is not making the money, and we're not able to attract the quality of people. Same conversation we have on the top end, and we always adjust salaries on the top end to attract the people that we need. The bottom end is the guys that, when you start doing percentages, never come out ahead. And I understand both of these are good plans, but at 21.5, we're trying to make a living. It's not very easy. You know, and those guys are just as important as every single employee here. They're not any less important than the guy at the top or the bottom.
And I don't
Those
believe,
truck drivers and those guys out there on the shovels that are building roads are just as important.
and I don't believe anybody's trying to make that point
And
with
so,
percentage.
my deal has always been to get that bottom end up to I think the starting pay should be a minimum of 24,000. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna do it all at once, but I think you've gotta get there.
And is there any of the other entities, local entities?
I'm not looking
Their
at other
starting
local
bases.
entities. I don't know where they're at. I haven't done it. You know, what we could do is set aside money to do a salary study and look at it across the board and compare it. I don't know what, it's about $60,000 to do a salary study, I think.
That would, with 200 employees, that's actually kind of light considering all the departments they're going to.
Yeah, I don't know what that cost is.
But like I said, nobody's figured it out.
No, and nobody has. There's, you know, the people on the top deserve money, the people on the bottom deserve money.
What would it cost to raise the starting salary to 24?
If you did the 1,750 plus the 1%, if you were at the 21,450, you're within $600 of the 24,000. If
And how
you
much
do the
of a-
1%,
But you gotta, I'm talking about new employees. You bump it, you're gonna bump base pays by 2.9%. Your 21 is gonna bump automatically.
If you do,
but you could set it at whatever they're gonna be making this year.
if you're at 21.4 and you receive the 1% in the 1750, what percentage increase is that?
What?
21.4,
Well,
9.2, 9.3,
the 1,750 plus 1?
plus 1 on the 21.4
Are you calculating the 1%
before.
before the ad?
Yeah.
It's about a 9% increase. I missed it by one.
It is 9 point, yeah, you're right.
All right, no, I was just wondering, I just,
And I'm not saying we have to do it all in 1 year, but, you know, we need to start. The problem we've had, and the counselor's been right for years, we haven't bumped those base pays. We've kept those base pays down here while we give increases. It's only been the last 2 years that we started moving the base pays by at least the CPI.
right, and then to that point, last year's raise was across the board.
Yeah.
And the year before, you alternated, and I know before that, there was some.
Well, there's been
you guys
all
were
kinds
doing
of
splits.
stuff that's been
Yeah,
done
we've
through
done
the
the 5
years.
before, the 3, the 1.
But last year, although it was almost a half-year raise, it was across the board. So,
Just to get this thing started, and I guess we'll end up with a couple of votes, I would make a motion that we do the 1750 plus 1%. And like I say, they just get it started, it's just a matter of a vote. If it works, it works, if it doesn't, it doesn't.
and we still will have more budget hearings. This is just so that we can set the elected official salaries, get the ball rolling, get those in the paper.
And what was the difference between the two?
75,000.
75,000.
And the 1750 plus 1 was a $75,000 hire.
Okay, there's a motion. Any second?
I haven't been able to decide.
And we don't
Because
have-
we still have the sheriff.
Yeah, it's on the sheriff, but we do need to get elected officials in the paper.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion, nobody seconded. I guess the motion dies. I need a motion for 5%.
I'll make a motion and we go with 5%.
I'll second that.
Second.
But
Any more discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, there's 4-1, so we'll go with 5%.
and we can still discuss this later,
Right.
right? Or when do we have to set the, publish the salaries? Well, I'm not convinced either way yet. I mean,
Right,
that's
what
the
we can
problem.
do, since the 5%,
When do you have to publish elected official salaries? I don't remember what the time frame was.
It's after,
We'll probably need to decide on Wednesday of next week, so we'll have enough time.
yeah, we have it in the paper. Now,
after the budget is adopted,
no,
or before it's filed, before it's adopted, but,
Yes, because the salaries.
yeah, because you can't file it with them, so yeah, before it's adopted.
the only issue we may run into is if we publish at the 5%, there may be a few elected officials that will receive more if you went with the 1 and the 750. So then we'd have to republish. However, as long as we do everything in time, it should be okay.
I mean,
It'd just be constables.
Correct.
Yeah, constables would be the only ones to receive more at the 1750 plus
And,
1.
Right,
So-
and our elected officials. Unless you just want to go and describe the amendment. 43? No?
Don't start.
Right. Right. Miss,
Because there's still other salaries in here that we need to talk about. I mean, like the engineer, we've set that salary at 75. We have not been able to attract anybody.
The county judge got his salary.
That salary needs to be looked at. The ag agent, she took a big pay cut to come here. She's done a great job. And when you look at the way her increase is calculated here, it's not calculated off of her salary, it's calculated off of the percentage that we pay. The rest of her salary comes from the state.
Okay.
So, you know,
Our motion is?
I would like to adjust that. I mean, when she came here, she ended up saving us probably around $30,000 that we've been spending, we didn't need to spend. And I would like to adjust that to where she makes, which would be a total, she's making 47 now. I would like to adjust it to 51, and, which our portion would be
Plus the 4,
yeah,
19.
19, to adjust it to 19. And I'll make that into a motion.
Second.
motion and second. Okay, any more discussion?
So we're moving
The
county.
motion is to adjust the ag agents, the 15 that we're at, to move it to 19, which would make her total salary with what the state is paying 51.
All right, there's a motion and a second.
Now, is that for both of them?
I don't know what the other one's at. I don't know where we're at on the other
The
one.
county.
So you're only making a motion just for the one?
Yes.
For Emily.
Emily
Emily.
Grant. All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody.
And what do we want to do on the county engineer? Are we going to pursue that, or are we just going to leave it and try to fill it with something else?
We need to fill Roger's stuff. My opinion would be we fill Roger's stuff. The engineer we'd hire on a as we need basis. If you want us to leave the money there,
What
and
was-
then.
Then we can leave the 75 the way it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that'd be the
But it doesn't have to be listed as an engineer, right?
And
What?
that's fine. We can bring back at the next meeting to adjust the job description for that, take the engineering part out so we can fill it.
I'm in favor of that.
So we'll do it at the next meeting.
Also, we need to, I'd like to propose an adjustment in precinct 1 foreman salary. He's 20 years' experience and he's not getting credit for that.
I've always believed that all foremen should make the same money. I didn't agree when we split it. I think that all of them should be at the same pay.
I'll make that motion.
That all of them are at the same pay.
I'll second it if we, adjust, precinct 4 foreman's.
No, I'm talking all salaries.
Okay.
All foreman salaries are at the same pay.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And what's that
What's
pay?
the pay?
Base pay.
What's the
The base pay will be.
The base pay will be whatever that salary
at the
is.
time.
Yes.
So what's the number?
I,
It's like 57 something.
Or Matt, I don't know. He knows everything.
it's
I just off the top of my head. Yeah, pretty close.
Logan Bridge. The salary would be 61,662.40.
Sorry, I wasn't close.
5152.
.47.
Can we do a 50 or a 00 instead of those, all those numbers? Can we round
On the
up?
basis?
On the
Then we
basis?
revenue.
Can we round them?
Yeah,
Start
round up.
rounding them up. Is that what you're trying
Yeah, we can just round them up.
to-
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
You opposed?
Yes, sir.
4-1. Thank you. All right,
Now the sheriff.
now the sheriff.
Can we do one before the sheriff? I'd like to, discuss community center. I had requested a part-time employee to help, Sandra. Sandra, has accumulated a lot of vacation hours and we really need somebody there to help her. She's pretty busy all week long, every week, every month. And, I had requested for a part-time employee.
What salary?
What's,
Well, the minimum would be the.
yeah, the minimum, yeah.
The other part-times that we've done were 15 something,
Oh, part-time, I'm sorry.
part-time,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
which would be the same as,
Now, a full-time would be 21.5, right?
Yeah.
21,450.
Yeah, but the part-time that was hired for county attorney was 15.
15 something.
1580.
$15.80 plus.
So it's not that much of a difference. I mean, what would be the difference? I mean, we go full-time.
You said part-time.
Well, yeah.
Part-time, now you're changing.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
It's a $6,370 difference between part-time and full-time.
No, part-time be fine. I mean,
$15,080.
Yes, plus benefit. Is that a motion or is that not a motion?
Plus?
Does one make that as a motion?
are y'all gonna allow me to?
Will you make a motion?
Hire a full-timer or?
No?
No, you asked for a part.
Part-time, you asked
Okay,
for part-time.
part-time.
Is it a motion
Yes, I'll make a motion to hire a part-time employee for the community center.
at the 15.80
$15.80.
plus benefit?
Okay, there's a motion and a second, Commissioner Wardlaw. Any more discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Right, now let's go.
Now the sheriff. So, will you explain to me again what we did here?
Absolutely. It is. It's a lot of information.
So this one at the 5%, if we stay with the 5%, it shows average of 39, 22, 20 deputies, total of 82,000. So now we're only discussing the difference, though, right?
Correct. That is only the difference. Because
Is
they've
the
already,
82 the difference? Or does that include the 5% we already did?
Those are not.
That included the 5%.
That includes the 5%, no, it's just the difference.
So then what's the the cost, since we already did the 5, what would be the additional money needed to get where he wanted to get?
$93,486.47.
So that's this number, I thought that included the,
No, that is the difference after the 5%.
Right, that's the difference.
that's how much more we need.
Chris.
You know, and real quick, we've gone from 24.5 in 4 or 5 years to 34,000 as deputies.
Mhm.
And we're not comparing apples to apples. When you look at what, and according to the sheet that I was handed by the sheriff, we were all handed, the school pays $37,146.
Mhm.
They have no matching on retirement, which we're gonna be at over 12% this next year that will match, or that will put in for their retirement. If you were to do that,
We're almost higher.
you are higher.
Yeah, we are.
You're $934 higher than what the school's making.
And has the school made a decision on insurance yet? Because there is some discussion about some of these employees having to pay their own insurance or pay a portion of their own insurance.
And when you look at what their deductibles and stuff are, again, we're not comparing apples to apples. I was told yesterday, or day before yesterday, that everybody has a different outlook, because if you're older, you're looking at the retirement, and if you're younger, you're sort of looking at what am I taking home today.
Cash in hand.
So if you were going to
But
bump them up, then take away their retirement.
does the school district have the $25 an hour overtime?
I don't think so.
And does that $25 an hour overtime that they use on these grants count toward their retirement?
It does. No?
No?
Okay. Augmentees, okay.
So they don't get that
12%.
counted toward their retirement?
We're sure.
With the exception of the,
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, and then the one that gets the 25 an hour doesn't get added to their benefits. So with that additional overtime and benefits, is our salaries seem to be actually higher.
They're higher. If you do the school. They've already got their 5%. No, they received it.
There's pros and cons when you compare entities.
That's what y'all just told us.
There is, I mean, you can't compare what they collect compared to us, plus the duties that they have, so there's pros and cons on both. I think it's hard to compare. I agree with Commissioner that apples and oranges.
What would be the new salary on the deputies with the CPI increase? Because all of these starting pays bump up by 2.9%, right?
correct. So once again,
It would be at $34,986. And I mean, if we're worried about bumping it up, then bump it up whatever the minimum is gonna be making this next go round. That would help them a little bit. Instead of 2.9, it'd be the 5%.
correct, the 5% would exceed the 2.9.
And that would help him get closer to what he wants to be. But again, when you compare apples to apples, what we pay as a county is a lot more than what the school and the city pays. The city pays, let's say 7%.
I mean, it sounds like you've done the research on that, I have not.
I just have a problem that we do one department, base pay bump by 5, and everybody else is stuck at 2.9. Everybody's important, equally important.
And I completely agree with you. And again, my argument would be is that one, you're treating one more better than the other. And the other, when we look at salaries, we're not comparing apples to apples.
What you're saying is we need a salary study.
Well, if we do a salary study, I mean, one of the commissioners wants to cut taxes about 2 cents. And we have that sometime during the deal, you're gonna have to raise taxes because it's not gonna keep up with it. And now you're committing, you do a study, now you're gonna commit to it. I just don't think it's right. But either way, I guess the question on the deal is right now, leave the 5%. I would think that we leave them at the 5% or come up with a different deal as to, maybe we don't pay their retirement, they get more money up front. It all balances out.
You mean redoing our
Is
procedure?
I'm not going there.
Well, I mean, you gotta look at both sides. I mean, we pay 12%. When you add the 12% to the 34, you're getting
Right.
paid more than what the deputies are, or than what the school district's getting.
Now, your statement that the youngers just care about cash flow and the elders just care about retirement, that's actually inverse thinking of how you should be thinking. The younger.
I understand that, but that's not.
If I'd have thought a lot more when I was younger, I'd probably be in better shape. If I'd have thought a lot more about it when I was younger, I'd probably be retired, but.
And if we get 10, 15 years older, your mentality's gonna change.
Right.
All the millionaires.
Yeah. I would say we leave it the way it is, but that's just my opinion. We've given the 5% all the way across the board.
I'm probably with you on this one.
Write that
We've
down.
done it.
Does that require a motion,
Now,
Judge?
we ain't together a lot, but.
Want to make that in form of
But I still want
motion?
my 2 cent tax reduction.
I will make that in form of motion that we leave the pay scale at the 5%.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Ward, I'll be too piece.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Okay,
Okay.
So you're gonna put all that together and then we'll review it Wednesday? Make the change?
Yeah, I could make those changes. I'm just gonna change the cover page, but
We're gonna put tax rate, setting the tax rate on Wednesdays.
the proposed
So
tax.
we're gonna raise taxes 2 cents.
No, cutting taxes 2 cents.
I think we should, I agree with you.
Huh?
I agree that we should reduce it to 2 cents.
You have not seen the final numbers. You're basing your opinion based on the 5.5, which that's no longer there.
Okay, are you saying that to Commissioner Owens? I mean, Commissioner Nettles?
Oh, we've had the discussion, it's okay, but you're the one that, just chimed in.
But you're the one that keeps saying that we need to not have the biggest fund balance that we have. And so that means that if you go with that theory, that means we're overtaxing the people.
And we've had that conversation for the last week. It's either, you can't have a $5.5 million fund balance.
Why can't you? I don't get it. Why are we different than
I am
every other
going
taxing
to
entity in this town
agree
that can't
with
have
Commissioner Nettles.
a daily service that everybody else
You have too much money, you either charge too much money in taxes, the tax rate, or we've not given enough out to the individuals that we have.
Okay, so what is the acceptable fund?
I'm at 90
No,
days.
mine is.
I'm at 90 days.
And you're at 90, and
You went up 30. You were at 60.
Yeah, but we're gonna negotiate, so.
So how many days is?
I'm at 90, he's at 45, we split the difference and we're gonna be at 60. See, that's how you negotiate.
now, do you think there's a reason that other entities keep theirs as high as they do?
Because they
Why
tax
they
too
can-
much. You sit there with a fund balance like the school district has, and then you talk about tax increases, or the city, and you talk about tax increases,
And not
you're
giving the
taxing too much.
employees raises, except for the COLA?
I'm all for having a reserve. You gotta have a reserve, because I've been through this county when we had 2 minutes worth of reserve. You need some reserve to be able to function and operate, but there's a point out there when it's too much. And you have overcharged your taxpayers.
Okay.
And we just have to agree on what that number is. Is it 90, 60, 120? I mean, that's something the court has to agree on. Then at that point, we can go from there.
And we had that conversation.
No, we've
in our
had
audit
it.
committee.
Yeah. You know, we've had that conversation
About-
in the audit
about
committee.
what
What is that number?
magic on
And,
that?
and somebody needs to put an item on the agenda, and the court needs to set what that is. And then we work to that goal. If we're there, great. If we're not, then we work to get there.
Correct, we can,
You know, I'm not gonna go back to where we were at. I was here when we were barely making ends meet, so that's not where we need to be. We need enough fund balance that we can operate while we're waiting on cash, and we have the ability to issue bonds and do stuff because we have a good credit rating and all that. But when you get to that limit, if you start going over that, in my opinion, you're taxing too high.
okay. Now, 2 cent, I don't know how sustainable that is.
You're right.
I don't know how sustainable that is.
I don't know
And
how
now,
sustainable it
If you
is
want to go
either.
lower than that, then that may be
You
sustainable.
need to put all the
for
numbers,
years.
when you do all this and take.
Then we're gonna take a look at it, but I mean,
Because
I
your
am set on the
5.5 is
2% because I don't think we should have ever done the 2% to start with. But, you know, we'll see what the court decides to do. I mean, but, you know, I don't think it should have ever been done to start with.
No, we
You
were
know,
doing
I
so
mean,
good.
unlike, you know, the one thing I can say about this court is unlike some of the other taxing entities, we have at least worked to cut costs to balance the budget instead of just continually increase taxes. So we have at least gone down that road. But we're at a pretty good place financially right now.
So what-
And the taxpayers need a reward.
Sure, so like a 30,000-foot view, we're looking at a 5% increase and still cutting taxes,
5% increase, yes.
salaries, okay.
Yes.
Well, we took our 5.5 down to 3.7.
Wait a minute, each one wants to cut taxes. I get the
Correct.
impression that all of them want to cut taxes.
That's, right, and we'll,
And we'll have that vote next
Yeah.
week, I mean, but, you
And we
know,
agree on the same thing, it's the same thing, we've been having the conversation, we had the conversation in the audit review. When we did that, is you have to pick a number. And whatever that number is, you're either gonna give more benefits or you're gonna cut taxes, you just can't keep raising your fund balance.
of course, you can't keep raising it, there's gotta be some sort of,
unless our objective is to set aside money to do a project, then that money is dedicated for that project, then I get you increase your fund balance, but it is a dedicated amount of money. We set aside whatever we decide to do, you know, we're gonna build something at the fairgrounds or wherever we're gonna do, and we're setting aside money, then that fund balance is dedicated for that project. I get that part, but just to have fund balance at some point.
I agree.
I agree with you as well, I'm
Yeah.
not against any of,
So if,
That's how come we just moved $1.7 million.
I know.
what is the acceptable level? You would have to just assess your risk, whatever our risks are for national disasters. However, we are heavily grant funded.
Yes.
And of course, we're not in control of if anything happens austerity-wise at the federal level or at the state level.
Yes.
But we would have to either pick up that load, increase taxes, or decrease output. Now, that's the reason
Oh, and I-
for having the fund balance, is because fund balance is time. And in the end, everybody just wants more time.
And I agree with you. The state and the feds continue to force unfunded mandates on us that we have to pick up nonstop. And we're gonna have to deal with those issues as they come along. In the next legislative session, by the time they get done with cities and counties, there's not gonna be much left.
How much is the next election drain that we have to get?
No,
Probably another
50,
50.
another 50
$50,000
grand.
before the end of
Because
this
we
fiscal year.
couldn't hold it on our normal election that we're already holding.
And how much is in contingency? It's less
No.
than 50.
No, I know. I mean, and I get it. These are continued unfunded mandates that the
That's where
state
the fund
does.
balance comes in, is that what you're?
That's the point.
And we all agree,
Okay.
we all agree that you have to have a fund balance. It's not-
But all we had to
just
do
need
to say
agree on the
50,000 was hold the damn election when we were already holding an election.
All right.
Now, I believe there are some wants and desires in the precincts. You guys covered all of yours?
I mean, I need dump trucks and stuff, but I figure we'll talk about tax notes at some point.
No, well, concerning precinct 4, the paving and operating budget was reduced.
It was reduced because we lost the TRIZ, or the TERS, or however you want to pronounce it. That was deemed illegal through, unconstitutional through legislation last year. So we lost that funding. So that's why it was cut.
Are we doing anything about, in the election budget for next year, the fact that we can't use those poll books anymore? After December of this year, remember I presented a budget and everything for it and a quote? Are we doing anything
No, but
about
I
that?
believe when we asked, what do we need for next year in election expenses, you said the 66 was fine?
If we only get maybe one election, because I'll have to buy those poll books out of there.
And how much is the poll books?
I gave you
Do
a,
we have elections next year?
yes, sir.
What do we have? Just in November constitutional?
That should be.
That
Well,
should cover it.
I quit trying to figure it out,
Well, I mean, unless somebody else leaves and we have to hold another election.
It is 30,
You never know if they have.
37,750 plus the 22,125 for the, maintenance and support. The cost of it's 37,750 when I got the quote, because it was 35 the year before when I presented it. Now it's gone up to 37,750 plus 22,125 for the annual license.
Is there a decimal point in there anywhere? No? Okay.
No, sir? Sorry.
This is like yesterday's meeting.
My husband does that one a lot.
Yeah.
Either that or we go back to manual. I mean, you know, and the ones we currently have did not, it was a grant that I got. And so,
There's not another grant?
well, you have Mr. Esser looking, and unless something comes up, they have not, they've got money coming down the pipe, but they haven't told us how they're gonna do it.
And that's from the federal. The federal kicking down to the state.
Yes, and that's what Mr. Esser is keeping his
Could you,
antenna up
could
on
you
that.
set enough money, she's gonna need the notepads. Set
How much
money
was
aside
it?
in case, and then if she gets a grant, then.
How much was it?
It's, 37,750 plus 22,
Yeah, but it was,
125.
it's 37,000?
37,750 plus 22,125 for the maintenance. And you pay the first year and it's,
And the notepads.
$22,000 in maintenance
yes, annual license and support fees billed annually.
for a set of
For maintenance.
records that we already keep?
No, for maintaining the actual computers.
No, I understand that. But
Yes.
we can't, don't we keep all the voters' records?
No, I don't.
No, but I mean, doesn't the county keep all the voter records?
Yeah,
The
he
county,
does.
yes.
So you come and register to vote, and we maintain the registers, and now they're gonna charge us $22,000 to use the information that we're giving them.
No, that's to program all the books and keep them up.
We're still
and-
charging you for your own information.
Yeah. Well,
To make sure you get it right.
well,
Well, that's a whole nother
So
conversation.
$60,000.
I'm sorry?
$60,000.
Yes.
And originally asked for 66. So we're just
Well,
doubling.
hopefully, if we only have the constitutional, it'll be in November, and it'll be in the other year's budget. That's why I was going with the 66.
Okay, so are you going to need more money than the 66?
She doesn't think so possible.
Yes,
But you're most likely not holding any elections in next fiscal year,
not in the budget year,
not in the budget year.
correct.
So the next budget that we're gonna be doing, then you're gonna be holding an election that you're gonna need the books for.
Correct.
So
So we don't need it.
you could spend it in the next coming budget. You could.
You could, but you could also need it for this one. If we get a state-ordered election, and, during the year, we will not be able to use the poll books, because of December 31st of this year, they cannot be used.
But if we have $500,000 in contingency.
I just say move it over, and if he finds a grant, and we can always reimburse. Because it is gonna happen, it's there, it's been awarded.
So
They
you are
just-
going to need the money. It's just.
I
a
can
yes or
try real hard to stay with that 66.
She can do it.
I can purchase poll books with 66.
I have faith in her. She can do it. Yeah,
So you're purchasing, did you say poll books? You're talking about the computer ones?
The computer ones that
Okay,
have to.
not just the paper ones.
No, no, that's a whole other issue, that's gonna have to come out of that grant. Because we do have some M100 scanners that are gonna need, we've been repairing them, but they're getting to that point where they're gonna, but that was what we were gonna do with the grant.
I tried.
All right, anything else?
Precinct, under capital expenditures, precinct 1
Needs warehouse.
needs a warehouse. Mr. Owens has that figure.
Not today, though.
How would we build that? Would that be, would we build that? Would we just go out?
Go out
Like
for
it-
bid.
Just go out for bid and contract it out?
But we can get a ballpark number to put in the budget.
Of,
We'll need to get together and measure what he wants, and then we'll get prices and bring it. We had lowered my travel and training for this fiscal year, and cut it almost by half. So I'd like to raise it back to what everybody else is making. We have a new elected official coming in, he's gonna need every bit of it to go to school. I would make that in the form of a motion that it just goes to what every other commissioner is making, the travel and training.
So the motion and second. Any more discussion? Not all those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Are you funding the DWI court?
are we funding it?
Yeah. Are you continuing to fund it?
Well, the grant was recently approved.
Okay.
Now, there was an employee that the county is funding to give services to that. So technically, yes, the county is.
Jamie, you had a question?
Yes, sir, I need clarification from that. Okay, the last time the court approved the 55,000 for the election, that was for the special SC 19, because that was the unplanned election.
Okay.
So, is there an additional amount in there for the runoff?
We haven't approved it yet.
Because it's set for September 18th, and we're already working on it.
No, I mean, there's no more money there. We're gonna have to find it from somewhere.
Okay, so do I get on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna have to set aside money to hold an
Well, make sure that
election,
we're not talking about.
so that we can hold another election right after that one.
Which will zero out contingency.
I'm sorry, Sheriff, you need to say something? Yes. Go ahead.
On the capital outlay for the sheriff's office, where are we at with that?
We have 2 vehicles in there.
2 vehicles, two
vehicles
vehicles.
and, I don't know how many computers, but the county's set to go out for about
70.
$65,000 worth of computers. And if yours are deadline, projected to be deadline, it will be replaced.
Okay. So that's gonna be in,
That's already in the budget.
It's already in the budget.
it's already in the budget? Okay, with respect to the, Motorola portable radios, were they included in the capital outlay?
They were not.
Or not.
This is relatively new information.
Okay.
How much are the radios? What are the radios
Looking at
for?
20, sir?
What are the radios for?
For
the new vehicle?
They're handheld. No,
Oh, the handheld,
they're
the
handheld,
walkie.
exactly. So the radio that they have now are basically obsolete. They don't make replacement parts for them. They're not gonna be serviced anymore. So we're asking for 20 at a cost of $99,000.
I will tell you that the radios that he has, and I run into it in my business, it's a game. They sell you something and then you can't get batteries for it, you can't get parts for it. We paid the light bill. We were out also, and we were having issues with our radios at Lomanta at one point, with our handhelds. This is, to me, this is right up there with our vests and everything else.
It's gotta be done. I mean, I still think we need to have a discussion about some sort of tax note to cover some of these. I don't,
I would think we set this 99 in capital outlay, and then if we can do a tax note, then we do it, but if nothing else, it's covered. Hey, I can truthfully tell you that with the radios and the problem that I even have with my handhelds 3 years ago, we couldn't get batteries for them. I mean,
no, I mean, I understand the problem he's got. I mean, we gotta figure out how to
if we were to
fix
set
it.
this money aside and then someone.
We need all of them at one time?
Sir?
We need all of them at one time?
For the most part, yes.
You can't split it up over a couple of years.
No. Their safety is more important to me. I'll give you the 2 Tahoes that are there, give them back to you to replace them with radios. That's more, their safety is more important to me.
But you're gonna
How
come
many,
to
how
us,
many radios is there?
20.
20.
you're gonna come to us in next year and what, 4? Right, I'll get more
I'll
hitting.
get-
So to me, it's like you do it a little bit every year.
Yeah, but,
I would think we set aside the Tahoe's and the 99. I mean, it's just, I mean.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we set aside $99,000 for capital outlay for
Second.
the 2052.
There's a motion and a second. Okay,
Okay, now, on that,
You're gonna,
go ahead.
That was, did you vote on radio?
No,
Yeah,
Somebody,
Are the, bullet resistant vests then for the capital
Yeah.
outlay?
yes.
okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody.
In reference to the vests,
Yes, for the
all
radios.
4 constables will get, there's be enough money for all 4.
Yes,
Oh.
and I'll do.
20 radio. Matt, you need to say something?
Yeah, just a little confusion.
So it looks like he's not paying attention.
Fund balance.
taking over.
what's fund balance? Ain't none left.
So we can't give the 2 cents back.
No. We're gonna start cutting something.
You know, the goal of going out for the tax notes and the debt is to protect the fund balance because
Yes.
you're at your acceptable level, and we can borrow at a phenomenal rates more than anybody else. So if we have the money, and if it's above our acceptable level, there really is not a.
And we get into,
the tax
and we're gonna
And
do the
that's
same
what we need to get
conversation we
to.
just had. What's the
I don't-
number, what's the magic
Till
number?
somebody gets to that number, then I don't know where you're gonna be after all of this. What's your fund balance?
Right, I have mine, you guys have yours, and who's qualified to make that decision? Don't know,
Somebody
or
put
you guys will
some,
make the decision.
judge, put an item on
Well,
the
that's
next
a call. I
agenda
mean, you will make the decision, yes.
to set, to take a vote on what we want the fund balance to be. That way we know, we're done,
Range.
we have it, we're kind of.
30 days.
30. Nah, hombre, dude. Did you forget back when we
Right, yeah. Oh, we had to clear the budget, we sent checks, and we shouldn't have sent
Yeah,
checks.
we didn't have to do that this year, that's good,
Oh, that's
right?
awesome.
Yeah.
Y'all, you've done a great job, man.
Okay. All right. All right, nothing else? Meeting's adjourned.